Hi everyone, it's John Mitchell and welcome to the next video. Today we're going to look at the difference between operations for manufacturing and operations for service organisations. Often what happens is that when we talk about operations, students tend to naturally think about manufacturing organisations and the production of a tangible good, something they can hold. But often what's happened in the past is there's been quite a few examples where an exam has asked for a service or given an example of a service organisation, and that has thrown students off a little bit. So no matter what we're studying in this operations section or area of study, it's important to always be thinking about manufacturing organisations and service organisations. As we go through, even if we're just talking about manufacturing, always be, giving an example of manufacturing, always be thinking, all right, well, what if this was a service organisation? How would this apply? So that's important to think about as you go through these, the next series of videos. So let's just look at the differences between, some straightforward differences between the manufacturing and service type organisations. First of all, manufacturing transforms inputs into tangible outputs. Now, inputs are the resources and outputs is the final product. So I'm just trying to use some business management language there, but so the transformation of tangible outputs, which means we can touch that actual good. So I've got an iPhone there where you can physically touch that. And a service transforms inputs into intangible outputs, so something we can't touch. Now, fair enough, there's a car there, but if what I'm saying there with that picture is that if I take it to a mechanic, right, they provide a service on my car, I can't really touch that service. I go in there, they provide the service to me, and then I drive away with my car. But the actual service that they provide in terms of changing the oil and all those kind of things, yes, there are some tangible parts in there, but essentially it is an intangible good. Think about an airline. If you are traveling from Melbourne to Sydney, then that's an intangible service, something you can't touch. Them getting you from Melbourne to Sydney, that's the service that they are providing. So it's an intangible good, so something that you can't touch, and that's one of the key differences between manufacturing and service. Also, in manufacturing, products can be stored and handled, whereas in services they cannot be stored. So I've got an example there. If I've produced something and then I don't have to sell it all on one day, I can store it and sell it later. Whereas with a service, if I've got an airline there, I've got empty seats on that plane. As soon as that plane takes off, those seats cannot be sold. So they're gone. They can't be stored and sold at a later date. As soon as the plane takes off, we've got 100 empty seats on that particular plane, which would be nice to fly in as a customer. However, as the airline, those seats cannot be stored and sold at a later date. If you are an accountant and you have appointments per day, every day, and all of a sudden one day there's an hour and a half left of free appointments where there's no appointments being made, that hour and a half cannot be stored and sold tomorrow. All right, so manufacturing products can be stored and handled and sold at a later date, whereas services, they cannot be stored. Manufacturing has very little customer involvement in the production. So I've got the production of a car there. It's very rare that the consumer's actually there working with them during production and telling them, I want it this way, I want it that way. When you buy a car, you buy it from, somewhere other than the manufacturing plant. So there's very little customer involvement during the production. However, in a service, and I've got the example of a lady getting a haircut there is high customer involvement. So you need to be present often when a service is being provided, and then we can say also that the service is being used up during the time it's actually being delivered. So high customer involvement for a service, very little customer involvement for manufacturing. And there's some of the key differences between a manufacturing and service organisation. So just to recap, always be thinking about both service and manufacturing organisations. Tangible versus intangible, so these are the differences. Stored v not stored, and high customer involvement versus low customer involvement. And they're some of the key differences between a manufacturing and a service organisation when it comes to operations management. So for questions, activities and more, then come on over to teachingbubble.com.